told you that you could have a beautiful garden with additional benefits. Sounds pretty good, right? Well, you can by using native plants. Today I'm going to talk about native plants and how they benefit our ecosystems, as well as some of their advantages over non-native plants. And native plants are plants that occur in a region in which they've evolved. So let's start by talking about how native plants support our native wildlife. I want you to think about your own garden and how it provides you with a place to feel safe and relaxed, and can also provide food for you to eat. Well, it serves the same functions for the wildlife that visit your garden. And the most important visitors are the insects, because they are the major food source for all other wildlife. According to Doug Tallamy in his book, Bringing Nature Home, if you count all of the terrestrial bird species in North America that rely on insects to feed their young, you would find that figure to be nearly 96%. So in other words, basically all of them. So you might be wondering, well, what does this have to do with native plants? Well, native insects are specialists, and they prefer to feed on the plants that they've evolved with. So in other words, native insects prefer native plants. A good example would be the monarch butterfly. Its host plant, the milkweed. Without milkweed, there would be no monarchs. And because also animals depend on plants for food, either directly or indirectly, animal diversity is closely linked to plant diversity. So if we are able to provide a diversity of native plants in our gardens, we'll be able to encourage a healthy ecosystem with a diversity of native animals. Now let's compare native plants to introduced plants. So introduced plant species are ones that have been brought into our country from foreign countries. Most of these plants do not provide food for insects and other wildlife. And as stated in the book Garden Revolution, native oak trees support over 500 species of caterpillars, whereas ginkgos, a commonly planted landscape tree from Asia, host only 5 species of caterpillars. So that's a pretty big difference. The fact is that many of these plants were selected for this reason, for being pest-free, which is highly preferred in the landscape industry. But what no one counted on when these plants came over was that their invasiveness could end up replacing natural plants or native plants in natural areas everywhere across the country. And with no natural predators of their own to keep them in check, they're allowed to grow as aggressively as they like, and in a lot of cases will outcompete with native plants. And there's also the chance that an introduced plant species could introduce an unwanted insect or plant disease, such as Japanese beetles, which most homeowners are very familiar with, and they are a horrible pest. So even having all these benefits, there are additional benefits to native plants. Their adaptability. So they have been growing in a particular region for centuries, and they're very adapted to the climate and temperature and weather, and which makes them easier to grow, and they require little to no additional watering once they're established. Also, they don't require fertilizers. So when you think about the wastefulness of a lawn, per se, how often they need to be watered and mowed, and also they require fertilizer and herbicide to keep them looking their best, wouldn't you rather grow something that benefits the environment instead of degrades it, while it also saves you time and money? So in closing, when I began my speech, I wanted to set out to just introduce you to native plants and inform you about their many benefits. I told you about how they support native wildlife and some of their advantages over non-native plants. With natural areas becoming increasingly scarce, I think it's our duty to provide a habitat that is welcoming, to all walks of life. And so it's my hope that the next time you are adding plants to your garden, you will consider going native. Thank you.